You're missing the point, and you're homing in to make yourself look good on this pod, yeah? But I know your homie's going to go down.
Till that point.
I certainly wouldn't sell Rashford. Oh my gosh, Rashford is a fantastic player.
Chef. Right on. Like, it's amazing.
What's happening, people? Welcome to the Whisper It Loudly podcast. I'm Jordan Jarrett Bryan. I'm joined by Darren Lewis of the Daily Mirror, Talk Sports, CNN. Where else? SJA. Any more titles?
I can't think of any more acronyms, so no? Yeah, you can keep going.
You what?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. And the man to my right, finally. The man, the myth, the legend.
I thought he was going to leave legend out, to be fair.
Come on, man. I should have led with that. Mr. Troy Townsend, how are you doing, sir?
I'm ecstatic to be on. I know it's taken a long while, but really 10
eps to be precise.
Is it 10?
This is episode 10, by the way.
But we've agreed terms with his agents.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
1 in 10, he's got to agree.
But I'm delighted to be here. Yeah, I've been enjoying watching you guys spin the stuff, and it's really good.
So for those that don't know, this podcast is a collective of the four of us. Hugh is not with us this week. Hugh's got other plans today, but it's going to be a rotation of the four of us. Maybe some weeks it will be all four of us, but just because of our schedules and life, that may be tricky. And obviously, as you've seen already, we'll have some guests coming on throughout the year as well. This is episode 10. If you've not subscribed to the podcast, please do so. We're across all your podcast platforms, wherever you get your pods, Spotify, Apple, Deezer, whatever they're called these days. We're on there.
Can I just say that 10 is my favourite number, so that's probably why.
Oh, there you go then.
Throw that in there.
When you played football, was that your
that was
number?
That was a go-to. No one else could wear it.
Okay, it's a bad boy number, number 10.
It's heavy. It's heavy as well. It's really heavy.
Could you carry it?
Oh, of course. Come on now, steady.
10 is the magic number. We're on socials as well, Twitter, TikTok now. We're on TikTok. Go and follow our TikTok account there as well. Twitter, Instagram, and of course here on YouTube too. Right, we've got a lot to get through, gentlemen, today. Let's kick off as we always do with football and sport. First of all, Liverpool still going to win the league? Is that still your shout? Just out of interest?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. He's doubling down. Oh, okay.
I just thought I'd lean into that negativity there, but no. I think anyone with a pair of eyes can see that City are going to win it. And
hang on, whoa. Whoa. I thought you said pair of eyes that Liverpool are not going to win it. Why would you double down on City winning it?
Well, because City know they were home from here. They know they were home in the dark from here.
It's a good line, that is.
And you can see that. If you look at these papers here, you probably can see them all on the back. This is the back page of the Sun. Golden Boot, Butte. It's a very clever play on words. And Haaland saying that he's just back in the goals just at the right time. De Bruyne as well. The experience of the team, the leadership in the team. They know their way home from here. And I know Arsenal fans, and you know what, I'm not even going to use this moment to hate on Arsenal fans or be disrespectful, because they've had an incredible season. Defensively, they've been incredible. Offensively, they've been incredible. The culture's good. The players have been outstanding. Odegaard's in line, a candidate for player of the season. But they've done everything right, and still City are just too good. And you guys are going to regret, I would imagine, mid-season, where I think it was December, where you won 1 game in 5. And had you won even 2 of those games, you'd be able to put a bit of daylight between you and City. But instead, City, like I say, they know their way home from here, and I think they're going to do it.
Troy, first of all, who's your pick for the title? And a subsequent or follow-up question, would you rather be in Arsenal's position, a point ahead, points in the bag, albeit 1 point extra in the bag, or would you rather be in City's position where they're behind, but they have that game in hand?
City for me. I said it quite a while ago, and although we have seen signs of maybe tiredness, and I looked at their performance over the weekend and I thought they were just getting by. Do you know what I mean? But Haaland comes on and scores a Haaland goal, which he hadn't been contributing in that way for a number of weeks now. And I think since his injury, the previous injury, he struggled a little bit. I don't see this 1 point advantage, whatever. I just look at it as if City have got, obviously, I still look at the Spurs game that they have away from home, because traditionally they don't do well there. They have beaten them in the FA Cup, and even that was a nip and tuck game. And I'd imagine that Spurs are a little bit embarrassed after Sunday's game. I don't buy into this, they brought 2 goals back. They were almost, they almost got themselves back into it. So I'm going for City. I'm still going for City. I still think they'll do enough, with that little caveat of that away game at Spurs, them treating that as probably the title winner rather than the games afterwards. And I don't put any disrespect on the teams that they play afterwards, but it's just that poor record that they have in the league going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and they would have to be firing on all cylinders for that game.
I take Darren's point about, been there, done it, knowing how to navigate their way to a title at this point of the run-in. that's just fact, right? But I was thinking to myself, from here on in, who has the easier running? There was lots of talk a week ago about Liverpool, Arsenal, City. Liverpool got the easier running, and I never really buy into this easy running because we've seen Liverpool have lost to Palace, Arsenal have lost to.
Say that now, I hope that what happened to Liverpool ends this whole thing about. Listen, it won't, but people say who's got the easiest running, and it shows a lot of disrespect to the teams that are still to play.
I don't think it's even disrespectful. It is, but I think it's more a case of at the last 10 games of a season, pretty much everyone bar 3 or 4 clubs are fighting for something.
Well, this is
this idea that a game against Burnley is easier than a game against Wolves, where Wolves have got nothing to play for. So I'd argue Burnley's because they've got a motivation. So, but I will contradict myself by asking the question, because last week everyone was saying Arsenal had a title run in.
I think what you mean
Chelsea
is basically
Arsenal.
who's going to take the most points out of the remaining games, as opposed to who's got the easiest.
Well, yeah,
run.
because now I think the rhetoric was that Arsenal had the harder run in with Chelsea, Wolves, and Spurs. They've come through that. So I'm looking at City's games now, and I'm thinking, albeit they've got a game in hand, if we're to look at points accumulated from those run-ins, who do you think will accumulate the most amount of points of the remaining games?
Again, to me, it's not even a conundrum. In 5 of the last 6 seasons, we've seen City do it, and it's a combination of class, quality, and experience that they're able to bring to the table at this stage. And so I don't look at any of the teams that they've got left. I know that they've got a tricky record against Tottenham, and lots of people are looking at that game as being the one that maybe they slip up in. But I still see them as a team who know how to cope with the pressure, a team who are full of leaders, people prepared to take responsibility. Now, to be fair, Arsenal have got that now. And actually, Arsenal are better defensively. But City, when you can outscore teams, a couple of seasons ago, Liverpool had the best defence in the Premier League. I think they had conceded 26 goals. City won the league by a point because they were able to bring that firepower to bear. And I think that's what they're going to do again.
Do you expect both clubs to get maximum points?
Yeah, I don't see... listen, I've spoken about the Spurs game quite rightly, but then Spurs are a different proposition at the moment as well, aren't they? That I think Arsenal proved that in the way that they dismantled them, particularly in the first half. At this moment in time, I just see that whilst each game, because depending on who plays first again, it adds a slightly different amount of pressure.
That's true.
I just see it as City winning all the games. And remember, we don't factor in injuries, we don't factor in anything. Do you know what I mean? Someone potentially getting sent off and stuff like that, we don't factor that in. But if all was equal, I just see City, it will be 2 points, wouldn't it? Yeah, getting it done.
I don't know if you saw our mate here, Darren, on the Sunday sports show on Sky yesterday with his mate, Minister Redding, the Liverpool loving that was going on.
Really? Was it?
Discussing Mo Salah's beef with Jurgen Klopp.
Yep.
But it was definitely a loving and a lot of fence sitting as to whether who was at fault and who was to blame and all of that sort of stuff.
So
it wasn't so much... just let me come in on that. It wasn't so much fence sitting, but I think we're in a... And we have been for a long time in journalism in this moment where someone's got to be to blame. You have to be team one person or team the other.
Careful.
And
it's a splinter. Just careful.
No, I just think that you can actually take a kind of
grown-up approach
to it.
Sure.
And just, to me, it's just sad. It's just sad because for a long time, these are two guys who have just been so incredible for the Premier League. And suddenly... Do you know what it's like? It's like a couple that you know, who on the face of it looks such a good couple. So their relationship, everyone, why can't you be like them? They get along so well. They're such good company there, and then suddenly it turns out, they're rowing behind the scenes all the time, or I don't think do any other scenarios down behind the glass.
Keep that in, Dan. You keep that in. Let's carry on. Let's go.
But, suddenly you find out that there are cracks in the relationship. And maybe you might be at a dinner party or something, or whatever, in a group situation.
Someone says something that just triggers the other one.
Exactly, and they start arguing in front of you, and you're thinking, "Oh my word, this is incredible."
Yeah.
Well, that's what it was. To see that, and to see, the finger jabbing from Salah, and look, it's not the first time that Klopp has been involved in something on the touchline with a player. Henderson, he's done it with before. Milner has done it before, and he manages those situations. So I don't think anyone loses any respect for Klopp after that. And actually, I don't really lose that much respect for Salah as well. He's a frustrated player. He hasn't scored in 4 games. He wasn't happy at coming on late in the game. We, being around football, and everyone watching this has been watching football for long enough to know that players get frustrated in moments like that. But again, it's just very sad, and I would hope that maybe they can sort it out in enough time to kind of end the whole Klopp reign on a positive note rather than a negative one.
Is there anything that it didn't look good, right? And I don't know. We don't know what was said, so it's difficult to kind of decide whose side we're going to be on. Well, I don't know anyway. But is there anything that Klopp could have said that would have justified or could have justified Salah's reaction?
Look, I'm not sitting on the fence.
No,
but I absolutely agree.
Come and join me, Troy.
We're making too much of a situation that happens up and down the country, by the way, across all the leagues.
See, Troy, I disagree with that. That's not. It might happen. It might be common, but you don't see a superstar player, a monster of a player,
regardless
on the
of whether
pitch
they're
arguing
superstars
with
or
a
not.
monster of a manager.
Yeah.
Tell me the last time that happened.
Yeah, but we look at that. Gareth Southgate, Dele Alli on the England bench.
Dele Alli's nowhere near the calibre of.
It doesn't matter.
Salah.
It doesn't matter. You asked me at the time. Dele Alli was one of the top young players in the country, and he was disrespecting the England manager, the national manager.
Ronaldo
So
and Ten Hag?
ultimately, there are examples.
Ronaldo and Ten Hag's one, but then think about what the impact of Ronaldo and Ten Hag was. It dominated the news agenda for days.
But so is this.
For weeks.
This is dominating the news agenda because it sits nicely in the news agenda at the moment. For me, look, Salah hasn't been the same since he's come back from AFCON, as far as I'm concerned. He hasn't been the same, whether it was too much, took it out of him, the injury, etc. And this tour that everyone was talking about that Klopp's on, this farewell tour that he's going to be, there's one, here's another, is exploding in his face. And the reaction of the players is, I have this thing about when a manager announces that he's leaving, a manager that has been there, for a significant period of time and done what Klopp has done at the club, and he announces he's leaving way before that time, because before the time that he does, because the reaction, it's going to hit people differently, and it will hit players differently, and it hits the environment differently. So for me, I understand why it's being picked up, and Klopp may have triggered him by saying you took too long to get ready, so now you've got to go out there and go and do your stuff for us to save this game. And Salah going, what, you're giving me 10 minutes, is that it? I really don't care. The fact that it was played out publicly, on the touchline, people will say, well, it's a big story. It is what it is. I think the two of them will actually get back together and said, what were we doing out there? Do you know what I mean? Let's finish this on a high. I'm going. I'm not sure whether you're staying or you're going, but let's finish this on a high, because they deserve that. He has been a leading figure in that Liverpool side, and all of a sudden, one action gets the amount of disrespect that I see towards him, and I don't think it's fair. We can all lose our rag at some stage. And you will say a superstar player shouldn't do that, but Darren, we've listed some superstar players, and we'll list some more when our brains finally start to function properly. So I don't see it as a massive. Listen, if he gets left on the bench the next game, you know what the story's going to be, innit? Do you know what I mean? So,
would you leave him on the bench?
Would I leave him on the bench?
He hasn't scored in 4 matches.
He hasn't scored in 4 matches, but Liverpool haven't really, apart from the Fulham game, Liverpool haven't really performed in that period of time that he has been sitting on the bench. And I think a Mo Salah starting is better than a Mo Salah coming off the bench. Look, they didn't look great again on Saturday, So he's got problems to
Would you drop him?
I think because Klopp is leaving, he can afford to drop him. Because whatever happens after these last 3 games is not our problem.
Yeah.
So I think he can afford to drop him and look strong and be like, no, that's not happening. I don't care if you're Mohammed Salah. You've not been playing well. I've benched you. Again, I don't know what was said to him on the touchlines. That is relevant as well. But I'm the boss here. I'm going, but you've still got 3 games where I'm your boss. And I think it's in the team's interests that you don't play, because there's another player on the bench that's playing better than you.
If Odegaard did that at Arsenal, sorry, Troy, if Odegaard did that at Arsenal, do you think he should play? the following game.
I defend the manager's right to drop
Use the example of Aubameyang. Right now, we're talking.
He was the captain.
It's all coming back now. Aubameyang. You say we don't see
player.
superstar
Aubameyang
players.
didn't do what Salah did.
He did worse.
He did worse, Darren. The amount of
No. You're mischaracterising. Salah had a stand-up row on the touchline with Klopp. Tell me the time when Aubameyang did that.
Stand-up row was a bit.
That's a bit
stretched.
OT.
Anyone who looks at the footage
Tell
will
your
actually be able to. No. You two, that's not fair. Salah is standing on the touchline, shouting and jabbing his arms at a Klopp, and has to be held back by Darwin Núñez. That's not hyperbole. That's not blown it out of proportion. Everybody knows
even the
what
holding
they saw.
back. I thought was a bit performative as well. He wasn't like frothing at the mouth about to box man down. But even if it was,
Guys,
all right.
come on, you got to be real about.
But what's the point you're making?
happened.
What's the point you're making?
Well, you're saying that Aubameyang did that. He did not. Aubameyang was late for some meetings, and his punctuality was poor, and there were certain things
And he got
behind the
dropped.
scenes, and he was dropped. But also, he was not just dropped for those things. There were political reasons why he was dropped.
He also wasn't performing at the time as well. He wasn't.
Listen, Aubameyang is a fantastic striker. He's scored 24 goals so far this season for Marseille, and he's in the semi-finals of the Europa
With all
League.
due respect, he's doing that for Marseille in the French league.
No, everybody says
for
that.
Chelsea,
Everybody
he
says
wasn't
that.
performing.
Do you
For
know?
Arsenal, then he
Do
wasn't
you know
performing.
when Haaland was scoring goals at Dortmund? Everyone said Farmers League Germany.
I
He
didn't.
comes to England and scores more goals than he did
But you're
in.
comparing the French league and the German league.
No,
There's a
I'm not. I'm
difference
saying that you're doing that thing where you're snobby about someone's achievements in another league because it's
not
another
snobby.
league.
I'm just not snobby. That if I have a 100-meter race tomorrow with prime Usain Bolt, I'm gonna lose.
That's not
If I have a race
comparison.
against
That's not a comparison.
my nephew,
It's not a
I'm
comparison.
gonna win. There's levels.
Individual sports
There's
against team
levels.
sports.
I'm
And
No,
the
but the
fact
point I'm making
is,
is- the
you
point I'm
don't
making
lose
is
the
there are-
ability to score goals. And the fact is,
No, but
that
at a
as far
higher
as-
level, it becomes harder. Aubameyang at the top level cannot do what he was doing 5-6 years ago.
I disagree with you. When
So
he was at
think Aubameyang
Arsenal,
in the Premier League
I
can
don't
still
think
score
he was
25
playing
goals.
for footballing reasons. I think there were other reasons.
Maybe.
In fact, I know more than
Okay,
I know.
You
a bit,
may well
and I
know,
know that
you may well know more than me, but I'm looking at the football games, and I remember Aubameyang's time. It was about a year. It wasn't like it was a year. He was poor on the pitch, Darren.
I wasn't-
And
I
the
was
team
about
wasn't
to
great.
say-
Granted, the team wasn't great, but the point I'm making is that other managers have done what I would advocate Klopp should do with Salah. It's about sending a message out. It's about, if you believe, you asked me if it was my club, I defend my manager's right to bench any player, the captain, the highest earner, the star player, anybody, if he thinks that he needs to do that for the betterment of the team and the club.
To move on.
No
from
one gets
that,
a pass.
To move
I don't
on
care
from
who
that.
you are.
To move on from that, I just questioned Klopp when they did play well against Fulham, and I know everyone was switching between Coventry, scoring an equaliser and whatever else on that day, but they did play well. They looked threatening. Their forward players in the second half really kind of put the pressure on Fulham, and they got the goals from, from really good situations. And then he changed it for Everton, so he changed back to the norm for Everton, to the team that hadn't been performing, and he got a sour performance. So I was quite surprised that he did that, because I would imagine that those players would have thought, hold on a minute. We've got ourselves up, back and running. We've managed to put the ball in the back of the net. We've beaten Fulham away from home, and we don't get the nod for the Everton game. And so I think that contributed to the what I thought was the lackluster performance against West Ham as well. I think there's a little bit of this from everybody now who's going like, hold on a minute, the top boys are not performing. I don't care if it's Mo Salah, Núñez, Jota, who's now injured, who's probably the best goal scorer they have at present. But you drop us again. Do you know what I mean?
To play devil's advocate, at that point, is it fair for Klopp to feel like these guys did the job for me against Fulham, but I have to win this Merseyside derby? This is the title for me on the line here, so therefore I have to go back to
Underperforming players. But we can't play the game on paper. We have to play the game with facts now. And the most recent history is that, as we use Darren has stated, is that Mo Salah is nowhere near his levels. For whatever else is going on, I don't just believe it's because he came on with 10 minutes to go, by the way.
But do you remember when Alan Shearer was dropped for the Newcastle-Sunderland game when
Hullet was in charge, yeah.
If Jurgen Klopp drops Mo Salah for the biggest game of the season and a local derby, does that not create similar type, the game you have to win, albeit out of form, is out of form, but the game you have to win, you've dropped your star man.
But we just go with the facts of the game. Everton
For what's
bullied
worth,
them.
I would.
Everton bullied them. They were much better than them.
yeah.
They scored the goals. They create this, they break that little bit of history, and all of a sudden they're back in the same spot. So this situation now is highlighted more. So look, Salah is Salah. I hope that he doesn't leave England. I really hope that he stays at Liverpool.
Finally move on to that. Do you? It's reported that he will be at Liverpool next season. Do you think that is the right decision, or would you be looking for a nice offer to cash in and use that money to rebuild with the new manager?
I think it's a negotiating position because if you say he's going to sell, then suddenly his market value goes down.
Okay.
So I think that the position is that he stays, and then someone will obviously come in and make a big offer, and it's a near certainty it'll be Saudi, and I think he will go. And I think there's two things to say with that. The first thing is, big managers, the biggest managers, are unafraid to make the big calls. I remember in the game against Arsenal, De Bruyne was taken off, and De Bruyne wasn't happy, and Pep sat with him and talked to him. He's thrown his arms up, but the big managers know how to manage those situations. I think as far as the whole footballing culture is concerned, I still think we have an obsession with one player being bigger than the team. And even though this season's taught us that isn't necessarily the case, Spurs have progressed, perversely enough, without Harry Kane's goals, because they've changed the way that they've played. Ahead of last weekend, there were the 6th highest scorers in the Premier League. And there are players who are taking responsibility. And yes, it would be idiotic to suggest that they could do without a guy who's gone to the German league and scored 42 goals so far this season. But the fact is that we've watched so much football. Everyone watching this, we've watched so much football to know that time moves on. West Ham, they were able to reinvest the money they got for Declan Rice into a number of players, including Kudus, who's going to be a fantastic player for them. And we've seen countless examples of when we've said, oh my goodness, what do you do about X player or Y player? But the team moves on. You guys have seen it millions of times, millions, lots of times.
Yeah, we have. I've just got to move on now to a couple more footballing things. First of all, Manchester United, reports have come out that they have said they are putting a price on everyone's head, basically. Everyone can get it, sort of thing. No one is safe at United, apart from Mainu, Garnacho, and...
Forward.
Højbjerg.
Is that approach that, look, you've underperformed everyone here, bar a couple, the correct stance to take as they move into this new era of trying to get back to where they want to be? Or should they just keep their cards close to their chest for now, get to the summer, see how the season pans out? I mean, it's panning out not great at the moment, and then make their big statements and their big moves?
Sometimes you can talk too much in this space, and whoever has given that information out,
Yeah, you're right. It's got a point.
I just think Man United is a comedy show at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. You look at that statement in itself, saying that you could get rid of a whole squad without even thinking about, do people actually want to join Manchester United anymore? Mm-hmm. Are they the marketable club that they have been? I always think about the criticism that Gary Neville gives them on a regular basis, whether people like it or not. There is something not right at that football club. Mm-hmm. So to do this, to say that everybody, and remember, think about some of the players they're talking about there. Your Rashfords, your Fernandez's, your people, midfielders, Maguire I'm not worried about, but maybe he needs to stay. I don't know. I just think that the club is doing itself no favours. Mm-hmm. And in creating this, everybody is for sale. What you're also doing is showing that you're desperate.
Bringing value down all the
players. So all of a sudden now, there's a club that might want, let's say, a Bruno Fernandes. You're not going to get the market value. Listen, he's done okay. He's dragged them out of a couple of situations recently. But then Man United are going to say, well, we have to keep him because they're not giving us the market value. Whilst going to try and buy people, the market value is going to raise because you're desperate.
Or is this them just saying what I hear a lot of Man United fans saying, we just need them out And if it means we've got to take a little bit of a hit, Man United as a club are now saying, we recognise the majority of the playing staff here are not of the level.
But you know what?
So take them.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I also think to myself, whether it's an incoming manager, as we've heard the rumours about Ten Hag, or whether it's Ten Hag, is that the manager's decision? What are you leaving any manager with, or the current manager
You
with?
might want some of those players.
In regards to the squad as it goes on. Man United can't have another bad season. They can't have a season like they're having this season. They cannot, again, not challenge for the biggest and most important competitions. And I think what you're saying there is, and I agree with you, we're going to spend some time to build the squad up again, so that in years to come, we'll have a fantastic squad of players that will put us back to where we want to be. What are the fans going to say about that? There's so much uncertainty about this club. I don't think it knows what direction it's going in. And I know they are, building behind the scenes before they... But there's so much wrong with this football club at the moment that I think that sort out needs to happen very, very quickly. What is happening with the players? Who's staying? Who's going? Who's our targets? How much money have we got to spend? All of that stuff. Can we create money from selling top players? Marcus Rashford is one of the highest ones on the list where does he stay, does he go? I think it's time for Marcus to go. I think it was time 2 years ago for Marcus to go. But what is his value going to be? Because every season, I would imagine that his value's gone down.
Let's drop in. I'm really interested to hear, Darren, what United fans, and it's a shame Hugh's not here, but I think I know what Hugh's answer to this question would be. But do you think Man United fans will be prepared to go through 18 months, 2 years of, mediocrity if they can see that year on year, the calibre of player is improving, the style of football is improving, the authority amongst the hierarchy and management is strengthened? Do you think they would have the patience to, if the club gut this team this summer and say, look, give us 2 years and we'll be back competing with City, Arsenal, Liverpool? Do you think United fans in reality would accept that?
No, I don't. I mean, I listen, I have to recognise that there are some fans who would want to keep Ten Hag and could see that he's been dealt a bad hand. He's had a lot of injuries. He's had a lot of bad luck as well. But there are other fans who look at the situation at Man United and they see that Ten Hag's a good manager, but just not the right manager for that club. Ineos have come in and they've not liked what they've seen because they've wiped out the whole of the upper strata of the club. Sporting director, technical director. Omar Barada's come in. Dan Ashworth's going to be coming in. Jason Wilcock's gone in there. So that makes their own statement with actions rather than words. And you have to assume that if they don't like the upper strata, then they may be going to look at the position of the manager as well. The one thing I think is unrealistic is the idea that you can let 8-10 players go from the football club. First of all, you're going to take so much of a hit, it's ridiculous. Second of all, which clubs are going to pay those wages? Because lots of those players are on big, big wages. And thirdly, Chelsea are finding out, when you throw the baby out with the bathwater and you allow so much experience to leave the football club, it's hard to bed in a new team. It's so hard. So there's a lot of unrealistic, there's a lot that is unrealistic about the idea that they're going to have a summer fire sale. It plays well, it looks good, it makes for good talking points on phone-ins and podcasts. But the reality is that I wouldn't be surprised if maybe 3 players, maybe 4 left, and that was it. And a lot of the other players, look, some players might turn around and say, actually, I want to stay. Martial's done that. I'm not playing, don't care, I want to stay. And then I'll make a choice about where I go. The players that have got a year left, they may well decide. If a club comes in that isn't to their liking, they'll stay too. And then there'll be other clubs for whom your price of the player is too high, so they'll wait until that value goes down. There's so many variables involved. It's just not realistic to believe that they can sell 8-10 players in the summer. The bigger question, as I say, for me, and I certainly wouldn't sell Rashford. Oh my gosh, Rashford is a fantastic player. And I think under the right manager, and we're seeing it with Sancho in the last 4 of the Champions League with Dortmund, playing with freedom again, enjoying his football again, under the right manager, these are young players that will rip it up.
Is it just about the manager though, Dan? Do you think with Marcus it's just about the manager? Or do you think there's more at play here that has, his reaction to his unbelievable goal against Man City, for me, I saw so much in that than just a celebration, you know. But is it just about him not? It's a plethora of managers now. So, what do you think it is?
Look, I can say this. I have children myself. You know, he's a young man. There's a lot going on. Football isn't just his life. Everybody knows that. He's a young man who has perspectives on the world. He has a spotlight on him. He has issues that every so often he kind of hints at with his social media activity. Yeah. There's a lot going on for this guy. And yet, and sometimes, as we all know, and many of the people criticising him know, sometimes you turn up for work and you're not at your best to do, you know, to give 100%.
It's a long time, though.
It is a long time, but he's a young man, and this is the thing I'm saying. There isn't, okay, you're playing for an elite club, and a lot of fans, listen, they got financial investment, they got emotional investment. I get it, and I'm not criticising them for taking a position on him. All I'm saying is that the longer I watch football, the more I start to think about the player, the man, rather than the player and the representative of the football club. And clearly he's got a lot going on.
My question, we've got to move forward, just finally would be, what would a successful season for Rashford look like? I don't know what a good year for Rashford now looks like. I don't know if we're going to get a 30 goal, 25 goal a season from Rashford. I don't know if Rashford's going to be the guy that's going to take them to, you know, competing for a title. And I rate Rashford as well. But I'm kind of with Troy in the sense that it feels like football careers we know are relatively short, and it just feels like he's just pushing, what did we say, upward stream, water uphill. It's a fight that I don't think he can now win, and I think he can show his skills with a fresh move, under fresh management, with a fresh gaze upon him to do what we know that he can do.
Or United can bring a fresh manager into that club, and look, I look at the top three clubs, and all those clubs have managers who have a fantastic relationship with their players, but they have an authority that, and they flex every so often. And we talked about Klopp at the start, but he's going to leave, and suddenly you see that weakening when you don't have the authority. And Ten Hag with his management of certain things, some things have been out of his control, but I look at that and I don't see that relationship with the players at Manchester United. And I think when a manager comes in that does have that relationship, I think you'll see performances from a number of players that are at a higher level than the ones that we've seen so far.
Okay, I want to talk about Spurs because we've got a Spurs fan and we can use to cover Spurs, but we're short on time. I think we should just wrap the football chat with a big game tonight at the point of recording. The Champions League is back, and it's been billed here. We can see on the back of the sun there, Bellingham versus Kane, England's two golden children going at it. That was my headline. It's not a very good one, I accept, but going at it tonight at the Allianz. Troy, this has been built from an English perspective. Obviously, those are England's two shining lights. From an England perspective, who do you think is the England superstar of the two players heading into this summer's Euros? Who's the player that is going to be the guy that will ultimately take England as far as they want to go?
Doesn't matter for me.
Yeah, just give me an answer.
No, it doesn't matter. It's, do you know what? It's both of them, as far as I'm concerned. Bellingham's had a long season at a new club with a spotlight that he could never have imagined, and he's produced the goods. And I continue to feel that this young man, if played in the right position, will extend that into the Euros. Harry Kane scores goals. It doesn't matter what you put in front. This was supposed to be Kane's test. Leave Spurs, go into a new environment in a new country, see how you deal with it then. 42 goals, did you say? 42 goals later, Kane's just said, I'm the same guy. I know where the goal is. I know how to put it in the back of the net. You never need to question who I am. And I think those doubts around Kane and whether he could do it outside of Tottenham, the Premier League, now dismissed. There's still people that will criticise him. I think these two are going to be two headline players for England this summer, alongside one or two others. That's why, stand out or not, it doesn't matter. If Kane scores 10 goals in the Euros, we're going to love him. If Bellingham contributes by assisting 3 and scoring another 2, we're going to love him. If it takes England all the way, it doesn't matter who it is, as long as you're shining. And I think those two will both, after the back of the seasons they've had, this is going to be an unbelievable game tonight. I'm going for Real Madrid just because of the way that they know how to. We spoke about Man City knowing how to get across the line, didn't we? Real Madrid know how to get across the line. I think Bellingham's performances. I watched the El Clasico the other day. I do believe his performances have dipped a little bit. Understandable, by the way. So it's not. It's not a criticism. Exactly. It's just maintaining that level for a young man in a very high-profile club in the way that it is. But what does he do? He comes up with the late goal. So he's not, he's still, his brain is working very well. Do you know what I mean? And he gets it on the back stick, left-footed, unbelievable strike. Kane in a Bayern Munich side that have not won the league, but yet his numbers are off the scale. So I'm just pleased that the two of them are performing at the level that they are amongst some very, very good English players. It's down to Gareth to knit them all together.
It is. Just finally and briefly on Bellingham, Darren. He's a really impressive individual. We know that as a player, he's got a huge skill set. His numbers are incredible. He's on for a possible double in his first year at the biggest club in the world. What is it about him as a person that in particular makes you think this guy could, because I think this is a person that could in 5 years' time be the biggest sportsman on the planet. Forget football player. He's got the look, he's got the physique. Well, the kids say he's got the drip, but he's got the fashion and all of that. He speaks really well. I never hear him chat any foolishness. Very humble, but he's got a personality. He's not boring as well. Yeah. I see a full package for a sporting forget football, a sporting superstar. Do you concur that we're looking at someone that could transcend football in a few years' time?
I do. I think he could be the biggest sportsman on the planet because he has the full package, the technical and tactical ability, the leadership ability. He articulates himself well. He's not afraid to embrace social issues. He is someone who could play for any team in the world. And he is a sponsor's dream. He's a marketing man's dream. He comes from terrific stock. Met his mother. I interviewed him. We sat for a while afterwards chatting, all three of us, and you get a sense that he's got a really good grounding that comes from his parents that enables him to navigate the world, let alone the world of football, the world in a really mature way. He's an outstanding sportsman, and I think that he won't just be defined when his career ends by football. I think he'll be defined by a whole lot more.
And just something else I just thought there as well. We often hear about young English players in particular when they're kind of on the rise. There's this kind of notion, and to some degree maybe it's true, that fans and media like to just look for anything to just bring these superstar players down. What responsibility do we as the media, and also I think as black men, have to ensure we distinguish between Bellingham the player and critiquing his performances with Bellingham the man, and not allowing any narratives to be locked onto him that could. We've seen it with black athletes over the years. What can we do as black football fans, black members of the media, do to protect him in that sense?
Well,
if at all.
It's a really good question, and one of the biggest things we've got to do is retain our space, because we do need that diversity within our media to be able to take that position of seeing the context in every situation. It's interesting you asked me that question, because for me it seems to be open season on Marcus Rashford, and if Rashford does something wrong, or if United perform badly, it's easy for a lot of people to home in on Rashford and not see that there is a player underneath the problems at the moment. It was similar with Pogba as well. Everything that was wrong.
I think Pogba's a better example than Rashford, personally.
Well, listen, you're asking me what responsibility we have as black men, and so we've got to put that on the table, because it is difficult for those black men in this space. We know that football struggles with it. Where is the leadership at the top of the game that are black? Within the leadership, where are the black men? UEFA, FIFA, domestic football, European football.
Well, it's us. It's Troy Townsend, it's Darren Lewis, it's us.
And the point is that when you ask this question about what responsibility do we have, It's huge because if we don't raise these points, if we don't see these perspectives, provide them, then they don't get looked at.
And I think just bolting on just
Go
last
on,
little bit, I think I'm fed up of now changing or talking about the narrative at the top end of football's table. You know, wherever we sit, you know, we're influential. Just using your TikTok as an example, we're influential. We have great commentary in this space. So we are the ones, like as mentioned, that can continue to talk about the positives of the human being. The player will speak for itself. There will always be people out there that are ready to criticise. You know, one bad pass, that's his 10th one on the spin and stuff like that. For me, we hold this space and we need to keep controlling the conversation and the narrative and not allow the people at the top to dictate, as they've done for many, many years, whether it's the top of football, whether it's the top of the media. We can control this because we can put stuff out in all different ways now. And the conversation can flourish in different circles and people can get to understand more and more about the individual behind the player. The player supersedes, but actually, like Darren said, the very nature of Jude, the way he carries him, I love him in that Real Madrid kit.
Yeah.
It's not easy to wear that kit, as we've seen in the past.
He makes it look very
he
easy.
makes it look very easy. And that whole supports this, that whole knowing, my family's got my back as well. So in times of need, they might withdraw me from conversation, you know, they might elevate me in conversation, but my family's got my back. And I think I understand what Darren's saying about Marcus, and there is moments. Look, ever since Marcus did what he did during COVID, we always knew what was coming next, didn't we? It was just a matter of time. And I think if we can control that conversation more, we'll help support in ways that even the player might not even recognise. You know, you don't have to recognise it, but it's very, very important at the moment to keep the level of conversation, a positive level of conversation about our young black people, because they are superstars in their own right. And I agree with you that Bellingham's going to become something that supersedes football.
Agree. Okay, from one team playing in white, we're going to talk about another team just very briefly. From Real Madrid to Spurs. Didn't go well on the weekend for Tottenham, did it? Just as the Arsenal supporter on the podcast here. Let's chat briefly about Spurs. Not so much about the game, because I think the game has been discussed, but I want to ask you, Troy, and your allegiances towards Spurs about the manager, Ange Postecoglou. He seems to be doubling down on the way that he wants his teams to play. It didn't appear to go well on the weekend, but I actually back him. And I actually have a lot of sympathy for the idea of having a philosophy, trying to build something and not deviating away from that.
Okay.
The counter seems to be, yeah, that's all well and good, but for certain games, you need to be able to pivot and tweak. What's your view on Postecoglou, on his stance tactically, and how you think the season has gone so far?
I love his tactical brain. I can't not deny that. I love the fact that he wants to set his side up to be on the front foot, you know, high line, brings a style of play that Spurs fans haven't seen for quite a while, and I think that's why everyone was consumed in it. I remember Spurs fans after 6 weeks saying we're going to win the league.
Yeah, I remember that too.
I remember saying, calm down, because there's always stages, isn't there, to the season. So you start bright, you're electric, everyone's fit, you're firing, you're winning games in a particular way. And then you get that Chelsea game. And that Chelsea game at home where, you know, the players were sent off and you saw 9 Spurs players on the halfway line. And Chelsea just going, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just chip it over them. And for me, at that period, I expected to see something different from him. It's a gun-ho approach, but you lost 4-1. Fans will never forget the defeat. I remember Man City, Arsenal, was it last season? When Man City changed the way they played. They took out your whole midfield by dropping balls into Haaland. No one was expecting Kevin De Bruyne to be the runner-off.
At the Emirates.
At the Emirates.
The first one, yeah.
It was the Emirates, wasn't it?
I think it was the first one, yeah.
Haaland on chest, no messing about, one touch around the corner, De Bruyne's in. And it happened so many times that your midfield was actually going, what, they're playing long ball into... You couldn't have... So that was Pep going, do you know what? I need to find another way to win this game. I haven't seen Ange... You know, everyone talks about this Ange ball. I haven't seen him find another way to win games or stay in the game. So coming back against Arsenal on Sunday, what did that show us? What did that tell us? It didn't really tell me anything. The first half told me everything I needed to know. Set up poorly from set pieces, goalkeeper not dominating the box, players almost going, oh, that's your responsibility, not my responsibility. First one was an own goal, but it was an own goal because Højbjerg was in a really poor position. And the Arsenal players were attacking the front stick and made him put the ball in his own net. The second one, because the goalkeeper doesn't dominate, and he's a great shot stopper, but he doesn't dominate his box. And I've heard that about Hugo Lloris, so they've changed one for the same. So I'm hoping, look, Maddison hasn't played well since he's come back from injury. Son has dipped a bit. So all that, that transformation of players performing at a high level and then the dip has come all at the same time with a lot of players. I just expected something a little bit different from him. Again, injuries, we can talk about that. Every club can talk about that. So do we use that as an excuse for the way they're performing? But I expect some ins and outs in the summer, and I expect him to evaluate his first season and think, do you know what? We started so well, it could have been better. It still might finish with a Champions League place, if you never know. But I just felt that Spurs, they didn't through that game. They were bossed in that game. And that will be very, very, if you're a manager of note, that will be very worrying from you, how your team was bossed so much in that game.
Darren, I think Troy makes a fair point there. I would just, my position would be that I'm assuming Postecoglou is thinking philosophy first, players second, i.e. if I can get the club, the team and the fan base to understand what we're going to do for the next 2-3 seasons, I can use the next couple of windows to drop in the players. Because Spurs have got some good players. Van der Ven, I think, will be top 3 centre-back in the country in a year's time. I think he's really good. Maddison, I think, is a brilliant player. We know how good Son is. Undogi is out injured, but I think he's a very, very good fullback. I agree. I really like Vicario. I never had Lloris. Never like, even at his prime, I never liked Hugo Lloris. I've never had him. But I think Vicario, there's a ceiling there that I think he can reach. So there's a makings of something to work with. Do you agree that he should continue doing what he's doing, even if on the face of it against Chelsea and Arsenal, it looks like madness? Or do you think it's a case of, no, implement your style and those that can do it better can come in over the next couple of transfer windows?
I think a lot of Spurs fans like the fact that the club have got an identity at last, because the Spurs fans I spoke to, even though I was a big fan of Conte and Mourinho, but the fact Spurs fans said at the time they didn't like the style of play. It was too boring, too turgid, too negative. And they like the fact that the team goes on the front foot right now. So, yeah, I think he will continue with the way that he plays. Front foot football, he's talked about growing up liking the whole method of the fullbacks bombing forward as often as possible, playing that high line. I think he'll get players that play in that system, a little bit like Klopp did when he took over. The side was unrecognisable within a couple of years from the side that he inherited, because he wanted to play a certain way, and he very quickly established he didn't have the players to do it. I think Postecoglou will do that at Spurs, and I think they'll get stronger, a lot stronger.
I think so too. I think if they can get some good players in, if they can get 3 or 4 players into that 11 next season, I think Spurs could be a problem.
I think they'll do that as well.
You think they will?
Yeah, I think they'll do that. I think there's targets out there that they've identified. Listen, there's been some weak. I love the fullbacks bombing forward. Poro has proved people wrong about him. Yeah. And Dog, I like him. There's a lot to learn still, a little bit raw. But again, you're going to curb the nature of wanting to go forward with, so you make sure you're defensively tight. And I just think that the last few weeks he's questioned what he's doing, the team in central midfield. And I think he wants to tie that up as well.
All right. Hopefully they won't, but I think that they will. If they stick with him. Okay, we're gonna have a bit of fun on the pod this week because we've got Troy here with us. It's his first appearance on the Whisper It Loudly podcast. Next up, we'll be discussing our favourite black films. Stick with us. All right, so we're gonna have a little bit of fun, gentlemen, this week. Not everyday politics and talking about Rishi Sunak and his racist policies. Darren, it was your idea, wasn't it, last week, that you thought would be a good discussion to have around what are our favourite black films? And it's often, for those that from black families and black households, I talk for myself. Every Christmas, every Easter, we link up. This discussion comes around and we argue about this film was great and that film was blah. So let's just do it now. I mean, there's a lot of black films over the years out there.
Well, I think the background to it is interesting, because obviously when we grew up in that, you would be with me. You'd be too young.
Yeah.
But when we grew up,
you recognise.
I know he did.
Eventually
he's got there.
Obviously after.
It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late.
But in the 80s, listen, certainly the 70s, if there were black people on TV, you shouted up the stairs for the rest of your family to come down because it was so rare to see black people on TV. And then you kind of held your breath to see whether they came across positively or negatively or not, because you knew if they came across negatively, then that would characterize
Did we
people's
really, though, at that
perceptions.
period of time, Darren?
Yeah,
Like,
I
remember
did.
how young we were?
Yeah.
Did we really like?
did.
I get the point of the black person on the TV, and we loved it, didn't we? Listen, love thy neighbour, mind your language, and all those.
No, we didn't love that.
No. But what I'm saying is there were black people on the TV. Then we kind of realised that, is that
this
how
what it
we're
is?
going to be
Yeah.
represented? But did we really critique it, challenge it at that period of time, or was that
We didn't
later on?
challenge it. We didn't challenge it,
Yeah.
but we did recognise it. I have a recollection, for example, that if there was ever a crime back in the day that had been committed, I'd be me and my sisters and my brothers would be like, please God, don't make it be a black person who's done it, because we knew that would make life harder for people who thought we were all that person. Yeah, and I give you that background to say that when black movies started, it was great because there were people seemingly in control and doing the kind of things that we wanted to see and having good substantial roles. The only trouble was that early on, and other people might have different experience with this, so I'm not talking by any means for anybody else other than myself, but early on it was just all one type of movie, gangs and shooting and drug dealing, New Jack City and all that kind of thing. So it was quite nice over the 90s to kind of see romantic comedies.
He's just killed my choices.
Well, before we get to your choices, do
Killed.
you both remember the first black film you did see? What was the first black film?
It depends on. Let's describe black. Do you know what I
Define
mean?
black film.
Because you know what, Richard Roundtree is my guy.
Oh, yes.
So when he come out in Shaft,
Okay.
right, I'm like that. I was glued, and I think I watched it 3, 4, 5 times because for me, I'm thinking I could be.
I want to be like him.
I want to be like Richard. So seeing Shaft for me was massively important in where I wanted to see myself. But is that described as a black film? I know it's John Shaft, but is it described? Would it be described as a black film?
So,
yeah. Does it make it?
So, yeah.
Maybe that's number one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
100%.
Okay. Well then, that would have been one of my first.
I think it's Shaft.
Probably
I
the
think it
first.
probably would have been Shaft. Yeah. I think it would have been.
Who's the cool guy? Isaac Hayes, Shaft. Right on. Like, it's amazing.
Please keep that in. No, I think that would have been it. I mean, the first one that I really remember as thinking it's amazing was New Jack City. Wesley Snipes. Actually, when you look back at it, a stellar cast.
Yeah.
Chris
yeah.
Rock,
We
didn't
Samuel
know at
L.
the time,
Jackson.
did we? Yeah.
We didn't know it at the
Yeah.
time, but there were Mario Van Peebles was in that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, a fantastic cast, and actually a film that was so important in dealing with the issues that were quite societal. It wasn't just because obviously looking back now, you see some of the documentaries and you see how the communities were so riddled with drug abuse and how police used to take advantage of the fact that there were so many problems to arrest unfairly in many cases and detain young men, and it was almost like a vicious circle of societal destruction in many respects. And so you almost feel guilty for being entertained by it at the time. Now that when you see and you learn more and more about it, but at the time it was an amazing film.
All right, come on then. So what are our top 3 then? You go first, Darren, because this was your idea. What are your 3 favourite black films?
Entertainment wise, all right. I really like Baby Boy with Tyrese.
That's my favourite. That's my number 1.
It's one of my favourite films. I really like Love Jones with Nia Long.
Yes.
Oh gosh, I really like Set It Off with Queen Latifah.
That's a bad boy film.
That is that film.
That is
there.
a bad boy
You've
film. That's
you've
an
just given
underrated
me
film.
that.
Yeah.
I've
That is an
forgotten about that
underrated
one.
film. So did I.
Set It Off
So
was
did
a
I.
bad film.
That was a wicked film. Yeah.
In a matter of fact, I don't think you need to talk anymore. That
No,
Set It Off
Okay, I'll
was
leave you
no.
there.
Go on.
There
go on,
are
keep
so
going.
many
one of the
more.
most
There are so
underrated
many more.
films.
Because you're giving me
That's
ideas
not
now.
in any order, and there are lots more. But I'm just going to stick with those 3 for
Come
the
back
time
to you.
being.
Go on, Troy.
See, he's killed me, to be fair. Because I'm a boys.
I tell you what. You can have Set It Off then, and I will take.
No. But go on, give us another one.
Oh no! What was it called? It's a film about cooking, and oh my gosh, I've forgotten the name of the film.
I might as well have kept going. Then,
Might as well have.
yeah.
We'll give you a minute to think about.
All right, I tell you what, you talk, and I'll Google.
We were trying to, and you interrupted him.
Because I'm a Boys in the Hood and a do it right fan. I Spike Lee. That's when I really also understood what happens behind the scenes. So to see Spike Lee as a director, as a producer, as so many things, and he's bringing in all these black artists and giving them a platform, not only to perform in regards to like the film industry, but actually to move and culturally make sure that we are set in stone. Because do the right thing. Sorry, do me right. I've got a song in my head from Guy. Do me right. Sorry, I'm singing quite a lot at the moment. Do the right thing, because films that you could see yourself in, you know, because at that period of time you were young, you were brash. Well, I was young, I was brash, I could be that guy. That whole Shah thing that I just said was, I saw those settings and saw me and my friends in some of those settings. Do you know what I mean? And for me, it's what enabled me to believe that we didn't have to only be one thing as well. We could be so much more. We can direct people. We can, you know, tell people, no, I don't want you there, I want you there. And I never knew we could do that before. I didn't know we had the prominence and that, to be able to do that. So for me, I loved the Spike Lee films because it showed me everything that I eventually have become in a totally different way. Do you know what I mean? But actually gives you that, we can do that. So those films, and again, I'd watch them now. And I think the test of time for many films is, I've seen that. Yeah. Or, no, I could sit down and watch that again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw Shaft in because it introduced me
Yes.
to the kind of status of where black people were without looking at it negatively. And then, those two films are up there for me as well. And I'll nick Set It Off from him as well. So that's four.
You can have Set It Off because
there he goes.
Soul Food is a magnificent film. If you haven't seen it,
I haven't seen
watch
Soul
it.
Food.
It's literally about.
I've seen Soul Food. If it's the film I'm thinking of.
If you think you've seen it, it doesn't have an impact, does it?
Yeah.
It's based around Sunday dinner, bringing everyone together. It's very cultural, but obviously the different relationships between the different family members and their own private lives and stuff. And again, it's a really good example of moving right away from some of the stereotypical negative things to some of the stereotypical positive things about the family unit. And it's a terrific film.
What do you class as negative, though? Because as I look at Boys in the Hood, I get you, but then I also look at the camaraderie, the togetherness, do you know what I mean? Looking out for each other. And I know what the setting is, but I see a lot of that as positive, but you take it where you need to take it. Do you know what I mean?
I think the problem isn't so much and it's my issue with a lot of films that are currently being made right now. It's the reason why I've not watched Top Boy the last season. I've refused to watch Top Boy. My issue isn't so much the portrayal of black people selling drugs, shooting each other, because in large parts of the country and the world, that is a reality. My issue is
also a reality for a number of other communities as well.
It is. Well, this is my point. My issue is other communities get to show themselves in that light and other things, and we don't. That's all we're served at the moment. All we're served is it's the next film about the man them shotting on the block, and it's like, all right, I get it, but is that all we can do? Is that all we can show as creatives? Is that the only reality for black people? So I think it's not a negative film in the sense that it shows the reality of what was happening that was Compton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Fine. But can we have some love stories? Can we have some comedies?
I love comedies.
Soul Plane.
Yeah.
Was it Soul Plane? What's the one with one of Chris Kevin Hart's early films? Is it Soul Plane?
I think it was.
It was Soul Plane, wasn't it? Yeah, one of his early ones. That's foolishness, but Barbershop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Barbershop is a typical setting as well, isn't it?
It is, but it's just funny.
But that's what I mean, because that's what happens.
Exactly.
It's a typical setting.
One of the other things
full
I
of
loved
laughter
about those black movies as well was the way that guys who started in one area, music, ended up showing that actually they become really good actors as well. LL Cool J, In Too Deep is fantastic with Omar Epps. It's a terrific film.
Yeah.
Ludacris, who's gone on into the Fast and the Furious films, has been outstanding as well.
I've seen those.
You've not seen those? No, Ludacris is
I've never seen any of those Fast and Furious.
Ludacris is a good actor, and that's the point I'm making. Forget about the franchise, though.
Okay.
Stay on point.
Okay, sorry, I'm just kind of films.
But I just love the way that certain people are able to make that jump from one area to another. And listen, everybody watching this will have their own films that they think.
Well, I want to just reel off a couple that. But Baby Boy is my favourite film. I think there's so many layers to that film, and it's the best soundtrack film ever.
Ooh,
The soundtrack.
I don't know about that. New Jack City was an outstanding soundtrack.
Yeah, I would challenge that and say Baby Boy as a soundtrack has
Soundtrack's
3 or
decent,
4
to
of
be
the
fair.
best. It's amazing.
Love Jones had as a
Love Jones.
That's got-
Michelle
yeah.
Ndegecello on Love Jones.
No,
is outstanding.
I'll shout that.
Absolutely.
Coming to
And
America, I think
Higher
so.
Learning as well is an
not
outstanding
seen that.
soundtrack too.
I've not seen that. Coming to America, I think would be most people's top 5. No.
No. You know, again,
No. Coming to America wouldn't be in my top.
No?
No, good movie, but not in my top.
Okay.
second
House
one-
Party was
second
my
one
third
also
one.
awful, by the way.
Oh man, shocking.
Oh, dear.
Shocking.
Which then makes you, you know what I mean? Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Question
you're
the
right.
whole-
You're right.
Rabbit Hole, stay on point, stay on point.
House Party, I think, is in my top 3. That was the first black film I saw. I'm a bit
Oh,
younger
wow.
than you guys.
So you are younger than us, yeah.
And that was 91?
No, a bit
90?
later than that, I think. Actually, you might be
You
right.
might be
be
right.
right.
It's
You might be
1991.
right, yeah.
That was the first
The
film I
dance
saw.
sequence in House Party is
The
outstanding.
whole thing is just like, it's insane. Menace to Society.
Menace to Society.
was brilliant.
You're just reeling them all off.
I am, but there's one more I want to mention. This is controversial.
Oh, go on.
That is loved that I didn't love. Black Panther.
I loved it. Why? I thought that it was a fantastic Marvel movie. It was good storyline,
Well,
strong
I think that's what it
performances.
is. I'm not into. So quick story. That's a bit embarrassing. When I heard about this film Black Panther coming out a year before it come out, like next year's this big film coming out, Black Panther. I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go and see that when it comes out. I remember I was with my mum. I was like, yeah, when it comes out next year, we got to go and see that. And for about 6 months, I was telling people Black Panther. All this time, I thought it was a film about the Black Panther movement. So I was excited about seeing this film, but not realizing that it was a cartoon.
It's a Marvel.
It's a Marvel
Yeah,
film.
yeah,
I don't watch Marvel films. I don't know about Marvel.
I hear you. I don't watch a lot of Marvel.
I don't watch any. So I had no idea. When it came out, it's like, yeah, Black Panther's out. Are you ready to see it? I'm like, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, oh, so who's in it? And they're like, oh, no. I was baffled. I was totally lost. And I saw it eventually, and I understand the significance of it culturally. I get it.
Yeah.
I just think as a film, meh.
Maybe we should ask our listeners, our followers. To
Please let us
contribute.
know on all of our platforms. What are your top 3 black films of all time? What black film would you like to see created? What's the film with the black men and their relationships? Is it
The Brothers?
Brothers. That's a good film.
That's a terrific movie.
Positive portrayal
The
of
Best Man as well. Very
Best
similar.
Man. I was going to say.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the best
movie.
man, but yeah.
Okay.
The best man. Yeah.
Wicked films out there, man. Anyway, let's wrap with this week's Talk Me a Talk. Darren, you're gonna tee it up, and I was gonna, but I'm gonna throw under the bus.
I'm
here.
just fascinated by the whole concept of people going on to plane flights. It seems to be a thing, and I won't name any names, but there are people who have been talking quite openly, really, about going on to plane trips abroad on holiday, turning left themselves and their kids turning right into economy.
It's like, you go ahead. You're that way, Richard.
Honestly.
We're over there. You're that way.
It blows my mind. I could not even countenance going on any kind of trip. I've got 4 kids, and they come with me. Yeah, wherever I sit, they sit.
So what I would say is, I'm assuming the parents that do this are in a position where they can financially afford for everyone to go first class.
Called privilege.
Well, yes, but my thing is, if you can afford for the whole family to go first class, if you're sending your kids to economy, it must be a point of principle.
Yeah, but
You have to work
What's
hard
the
to
principle?
get this. Well,
Is
that
it?
you have to
Is
work
it?
hard, kids, to be able to get to this.
are you not working hard for your children as well?
I don't have kids, so
I mean,
I'm
I'm not being funny. Like, it's like You know, you get on the bus and the bus is packed. Well, good old days. The bus is packed. You say to your children, I'm going to jump on this one. Get on the one behind. There's less people on it. I can't understand
That's
the whole...
a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
Wouldn't you wait, though, with your children to go and get on the one altogether that has less people on it?
Yeah, but in the example of the planes, we're all going at the same time.
We're all going at the same time. We're just going to the market to go and get our meat and veg.
No, we're not, because if you're getting the bus behind, we're not going at the same time, are
Here's
we?
my question. Why should someone else look after your kids?
They don't have to look after the kids. They just got to sit in the back for 4 hours and behave themselves.
Yeah, but say there's an issue with one of your kids. Why does somebody else have to check if they're okay or get a
But
stewardess?
your kids might be well behaved. Isn't the problem here?
Suppose they're not.
Differentiation
No, it's
between.
not.
Suppose they're not.
Look at what happens. I don't know how, in this scenario, I don't know how old the children are. Are they teenagers? Are they older? Are they...
Does that matter?
I don't think it does matter.
No. I didn't say it mattered. But what I'm saying is, with the amount of...
No, he's asking whether it matters.
With the amount of people out there who like to see young children alone by themselves to jump in and to create relationships and to try and buy their trust and all those kind of things that we've seen, go on. Why would you let your children travel by themselves?
Blows my mind, honestly.
I'm trying to think of... I mean, I'm probably with you guys. I'm trying to think of a rationale as to where
There is none.
would do that. And if you can't afford to send everybody first class, then just all go economy.
Listen, I can't afford to go
Doesn't
first
matter
class
about how
if
much
I
you
can't afford to send
can't afford.
everybody.
But the reason why I mentioned the cost is just that I'm only assuming that cost isn't the issue here. They can afford for their kids to go first class. They're trying to send their kids a message.
What message?
Well, as I said, a message might be, we've earned this privilege. Kids,
Well,
let
in
the
other
people
words,
talk over here
once
and
they
hit me
earn
in the
that
back.
privilege, their family fractures. And they as parents go into one section and the other kids,
Listen.
someone else.
It's like
The thing is, right, it's not even as if the kids are badly behaved or whatever. Say they're hungry. Say they want to use a
They still get
toilet.
fed.
But suppose they...
It's not a toilet in the back of the
But
plane.
suppose they want the love of their... on a long trip, they want the love of their mother and father.
What? What does that
What do you mean, what's not? Being on a plane is not easy for everyone.
We're flying across
Being
Europe
on a
for 4
plane
hours.
is not easy for
See, you've
everyone.
upset him now.
I'm missing the. I'm not
Yeah,
getting
but-
the love of
yeah.
my mum and dad. Because
Yeah, but you just said I haven't got children. Did you say that?
but I've been
I'm
a
saying,
child before.
But so you don't think children would miss their mum
So
and
why is that different from when a child is at school for 5 hours in a day?
It's different because at school you're with your friends and you spend
They might be with
that
their
time
friends
with
back
your-
in the plane.
No, or
You're
they
not
might be
getting
with
it. You need
complete
to-
strangers. You need to have kids.
Let me lend you one of my
need to
children
have
for a little
kids.
while and then
Exactly.
see.
Yeah.
It just
If the
reminds
child
me
is like under 3, yeah, I'm with you.
Let me-
But if they're like of age,
There was this Kevin
they'll
Hart.
be all right.
What's of age?
I mean, over 8 or 9.
Right, okay.
Really?
We don't normally do this, but Dan, who's doing this? You got kids. Would you
I
turn
was
left?
with you till that
Would
point.
you, would you
What
turn
what
left?
point?
Until you said
See,
that with love.
Dan would not do it. Dan would not do it.
No,
Dan knows.
What, you
But
don't
not-
include love in all of that. You don't include
I'm
the fact that the children might want their mummy and daddy.
I'm saying.
Listen to what I'm saying, mummy and daddy as well.
I'm saying. I know what you're saying. What I'm saying is I wouldn't do it, but I wouldn't do it for that. I would not do it for that
No,
reason.
I didn't say that's the sole reason. I'm adding value
The
to the
idea-
reasons
the
why
idea
not to.
that my
No, you're
under 10
homing in on it.
The idea that my under 10-year-old is
Under
gonna
10,
feel like
Jordan.
the lack of love for not being able to see me for
You're
4
missing
hours.
the point. You're
That's a
missing
stretch.
You're missing the point, and you're homing in to make yourself look good on this pod, yeah. But I know you're homing.
I
You're
was
gonna go
with you
down
till
with
that point. I mean, like I said, if the kid is like 3, then yeah, of course.
Can I ask you a question?
But if the kid's
Say
10
you go
plus,
back, say you go back
Come on.
there. Say you go back there. Say you go back there, right? You got, God forbid, you got a daughter. You go back there. When you go back there, you see a guy sitting next to her. So, and this obviously is no joke. It's a serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
You go back there and you say to the girl, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, she was sitting by herself. She was upset. So I just wanted to see what was wrong with her." What do you say then?
that's more about poor parenting than it is about that particular. Because that's no different to trying to protect my child in any environment. In any
Why
environment.
would you leave your child alone in any environment?
But they're not alone, are they? And as long as
Who's
look,
with
okay,
them?
if my daughter was 8 years old and I saw next to her there was some
Believe you
some
me.
guy,
Let me tell you something.
I'll be like, no,
Yeah,
you
but
come with
you'd
me.
be
Believe
in
you
first
me.
class.
You believe
so
you
how
me.
would you know?
You know where your daughter's sitting.
Have a child. Have a child.
You know where your daughter's sitting,
and
Darren.
you'll see things differently. Have a child, and you'll see
Maybe.
things. You'll see
Like
things
a-
through different lens.
No, I'm being a little bit
Facetious.
A little bit. I'm with you. I wouldn't do that. I don't understand the benefit of doing that. I'm trying to put forward an argument as to why the parent would do that. And I can only surmise, and I'm clutching here, I can only surmise they're trying to teach their child a lesson in that this is for people that have worked hard. If you work hard, little Johnny, you can get this too.
So that point, I remember watching Kevin Hart talk about this experience of taking his children back to where he came from. And he landed on his private jet, private jet. But he said, look, this is where I used to live. This is the grass that I used to sit on. This is, the steps. This is the way to school. Yeah. He just wants to show them that, if you work hard and do all the right things, you can be like me, Daddy. And the children said, we want to live here. We don't want those things that we have. We want these.
But there's a lesson there, is there not?
What lesson?
That if you work hard, you can get this.
He was saying, no, we're not coming back here. We're living there.
Oh,
it was on the opposite side.
I'm with you.
We're creating a new life. This is what I've done and this is what I've achieved,
I'm with you. But we got to wrap now. But my final point would be, how do we not know that those parents, when they're at home, aren't giving their kids everything else?
Yeah, but you can't judge that because behind closed doors is you can't see it.
Those kids might have a fat bank account. Those kids might have all the clothes that they need. Those kids might go to the best school. Those kids might go to riding class.
But now you're creating a story that we could
that might be the one example the parents giving their child.
And it's a really bad example.
Maybe. And on that note, we will wrap. Troy,
thank you so much.
It's good to have you with us.
Number 10 is magic.
Is it going to be number 20 before we see you again?
I'm going to try and move it down to 5.
Okay, we'll take it. We'll take it. And of course, Mr. Lewis, as per usual, a pleasure as always. Don't forget to subscribe to us on here, YouTube, or across all the podcast platforms as mentioned. And we're across all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Share, comment, like. You know what to do. We'll see you next week. Peace.